Good afternoon, Crissy. How are you?
Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Mm,
I'm good.
so well, and so happy to see you and to see your face on camera. Um, your testimony was the first testimony that I ever really heard, and I remember just being prompted to reach out to you and ask you for your testimony. And I don't even know why I felt like you had something that I could relate to, but I knew that I needed to ask you. And I remember over the course of a couple of shots, I was like in the bath one night, just listening to your whole testimony on the phone. And I don't know if you even remember that. It was quite some time ago. And this YouTube channel was not even a glimmer in my eye. I never knew that I was gonna start to record testimonies with people. So to have you here so that other people can also hear your testimony and be blessed by it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
My
Um, I've been, I don't know, I've been going over in my mind for a long time, like what I would say if I was asked to give testimony. Um, I think possibly before we talked, but I remember you said something about like you thought that you might want to do this in the future. And then I saw the videos with other people and I was like, oh, maybe my story was just too brutal.
uh,
Like,
well, you know what? I didn't come back to you to ask you not because it's brutal. I don't know why until now. I mean, I had a feeling you were gonna shoot me down and not actually want to share it because it is quite the testimony. So I'm super glad that I asked you a week or so ago and that we're here today and we found the time. And y'all might know Crisi as Crisi and y'all might know her as Hebrew Hahas.
yeah.
Surprise!
I'm both. Woo.
I remember when I discovered that, I put the pieces together and I felt like such a detective because your Hebrew Haha's profile is rather intimidating. So we can definitely talk about I can tell you that. It could be intimidating. Now that I know it's you, I'm not intimidated. You're just hilarious. But you know so much, and you can tell that you're somebody who has been on this path. You can tell that Hebrew Hahas, that Yael, is somebody who's been on this path for quite some time. And she's got a big personality and she's hilarious. You know what I mean? So um I think once I put the pieces together, and you and I had already been talking in other messages about other stuff, and once I realized you were the same person, I wasn't so intimidated by your Haha's page anymore because you were a real human being and you were bringing sometimes strife, but mostly joy to so many people in this like super crazy, intense, wild community that you can't even imagine what this community is like until you're in it for some time. So thank you for all the joy that you bring us. And I know that there are other people watching who cannot wait to learn about you.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed that I'm like outing myself, right? Because I like love that moment when I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, yeah, my name is Chrissy. Like we're friends on Facebook or whatever. And then I'll say something like, also as seen on Facebook as Hebrew Hahas, and they're like, what? Because it just cracks me up.
You could be a bot. Like that account could be like not even, it could even be a man. Like who even knows I mean, the profile picture does look like you when you know what you look like. It does
Yeah.
not look like you. But I don't think anything negative will come out of outing you here. I think if anything, only positive things because we're here to hear your whole testimony, the truth,
Well,
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I don't know where you want to rewind to. I don't know who Crissy was before she was Yael.
yeah. It's a long story, but there will be memes made, I'm sure. Okay, so I have been unsure about telling people like my story, my testimony. Um, and I'm really nervous. You probably could tell. It's like hitting me all of a sudden. But I had a friend that encouraged me to tell my story to you and put it out there because I feel like, and they've said that other women might hear what I've been through. what I still deal with, and that they might be encouraged. It might be what they need to hear. So that's my reason for doing this. I like to encourage people. I like to make people laugh. I like to take care of people. So um, hopefully, like by putting this out there, that it'll do that for somebody.
Thank you.
Um, and I also like don't know, since I'm still alive, I don't have a resolution to my story because every day it's changing. And so maybe we'll have to do another one later on. Like this could be a to be continued because the story is always changing and the father's always working in things.
Amen.
So
As it should be, right? For anybody, I have a few pending conversations open with people who would like to tell their testimony. They just feel like at this exact moment things are changing so quickly for them that they don't even, and then we hit a season where things plateau a bit and then they get all, when I first recorded my testimony, I was New Age to Jesus. That was what I called it, was New Age to Jesus. I didn't know about all, like I had to do a whole other testimony when I started on this path because it was Jesus was the beginning of the rabbit hole. I thought he was at the end of it, but he just opened up this door to like who is our Messiah and how are we actually meant to be following him. So I think
right.
our stories, our testimonies have to be ongoing. Otherwise, we're stagnating. We need to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. True. All right. Cool. Yeah, no, I'm sure that, it's like that for me too. Surprise, there's more. You have not reached the end. So, okay, Crisi. I grew up in a family that my mother, my grandmother, like I grew up knowing about Jesus and God. I don't remember ever being a time that I didn't believe. Um, we went to church, like went to VBS when I was a kid. The church bus would come pick us up, and I learned the songs and, prayed the prayers and all of that. Um, so always had faith my whole life. But a lot of my Bible knowledge was, um, Sunday school stories and reading some Psalms and Proverbs and the New Testament, especially Paul. I could quote all sorts of things. And so I was under the understanding that, like, the law was done away with, which I didn't even understand that I like thought that later on. But yeah, I was like, that's the Old Testament. That's bedtime stories and irrelevant things. Like, what do we need that for? Um, and even the church that we went to, like when somebody would say the sinner's prayer and get saved, they would hand them a copy of the New Testament. Like, like the Old Testament wasn't relevant at all. And so that's what I grew up in. I did all the holidays, the mainstream holidays. I did them up big after I had kids. You want to unmute?
I didn't know. I glitched for a minute. I glitched.
Uh,
I confused you with my friend Hannah, who I don't know if you know Hannah.
I know a Hannah.
It's probably the same Hannah, and she was talking about how I think even in her testimony that we recorded, how she would house shop based on the ceiling being big enough for her tree. For
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was important, like, or to have a window that you could feature it in. I was crazy, okay? I had a tree in every single room, even the bathroom. Like, I had a little mini tree in the bathroom. And my trees, especially the one in the front of the house, I would change the decorations every year. So I had decorations in every color. And I worked at a craft store, so I got like a discount on these things. So, like, I had thousands of dollars in ornaments just for Christmas. And I just loved it so much. And we did the Santa thing. I didn't ever want my kids to be disappointed because, like, this might be the last year that they believe in Santa Claus and, the spirit of Christmas and all of those things. So into it. And then, Easter, the Easter bunny would come. Like, we did all of that. We even like celebrated Dr. Seuss Day. Like it was a bit excessive. I just loved excuses to like make crafts and decorate and just go all out. So I was like uber holiday girl. And yeah, I had faith, but I didn't have a lot of fruit. I think that I was lacking the relationship. And I mean, I was even told a couple of times that I lacked a relationship. And I was like, what what more can I do? You know, like I pray and I have faith, I believe. Like, why would they think that I don't have relationship? Um, and so yeah, that was Crisi. Um, and we did like when we did Christmas, before we could open the presents from Santa Claus, we would put the little baby Jesus in the manger and we would sing happy birthday to him. And then we would rip into all the presents that the man in the, you know, the fat man in the red suit would bring, you know. But we had like a second for Jesus. Um, so yeah, it was a big deal and I wanted to make it special for the family.
I'm looking
And
at you like perplexed. I Christmas was a big deal in my house, but Jesus wasn't. So now
yeah.
it's interesting to me to see, like it's the same with my husband's family, how Christ got put into Christmas. Like we just had the commercial thing. We didn't anyway, I that was fascinating to listen to. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if this is where it came. It's not where it came from for me. I heard it from somebody else, and it seemed like a good idea that we incorporated. But I've seen this really cheesy 90s video of like the women sitting around the ugly sweaters, and that she's talking to the women and saying, you know, like, and here's how we put the Christ in Christmas, you know. And she's suggesting that they did that, but we used to like hide the little statue, you know, from our manger of Jesus. We would hide it until Christmas morning so the kids could never find it. They're too busy finding the elf on the shelf, you know, and then we would put it in, you know, and then we would sing. Now that's like not such a lovely thing to me, you know, it means something totally different now. But at the time, I was totally sold out for it. So, so 6.5 years ago, it was in February. Um, I was feeling the need to go through my husband's phone. And so I didn't do it at first and then I did. And when I did, I found messages between him and another woman. And I found out at that point that my husband um had extramarital um affairs and it destroyed me. It was really hard. And I was I was depressed and I was hopeless and I didn't know what to do. And I decided I would stick around for a year and I would see if he became sober from his addictions. He had, you know, these behavioral addictions. Um, but uh, it really broke me. Um, and I went to the church to ask for help, for counseling, and the pastor wouldn't meet with us. And I didn't understand because I was like helping in the children's ministry and you know we were doing all the things and like he wouldn't even talk with me. I asked 3 times and he refused. And one day after church, he came up and like shook my husband's hand and looked him in the eye and he's, "How are you doing?" And then he moved on. He didn't even like recognize that I was there. So I was totally without support. And that hurt a lot. And so I was definitely leaning more into the Father through all of this, and it was building my faith. Um, and I was trying to deal with the pain. Um, but I did feel abandoned also by everything. by my husband, by, the church that I thought would support us and like give us advice on what to do. I had no idea. Um, so for a year, my husband wasn't really in recovery, and I felt really dismissed. We had done the love languages study before, and you're supposed to love your spouse in the way that they perceive love. And this definitely was not how I perceived love. You know, this wasn't in the agreement. If I had written down our marriage vows, and said, this is how I want you to love me, it would have included not cheating on me. Um, and so I absolutely didn't feel loved by all this, and totally like my feelings were dismissed. So, we went through a year that we went to a marriage intensive, and it seemed like there might be a turnaround at that point. And by the way, I was working 3 jobs because I didn't know if I needed to leave. I was in counseling, and the counselor was trying to get me to think through, like, if I need to leave, what am I going to do to take care of the kids and myself? And so I was working 7 days a week,
And how
three
long,
jobs.
Chrissy, how long had you guys been together by this point?
This was, we were married 8 years,
Okay.
9 years at the time of finding this out. We've been married 15 years now.
And
And it was,
just a heads up to any he knows that Chrissy's telling this story right now.
yes.
There's everything eventually comes to light, and well, I'll let you tell, but yeah, just to put out there that there are no secrets.
Yeah, maybe we should put a little disclaimer on the bottom. But my husband, when we started talking about doing this, I didn't even ask him. It was on my mind, of course, but I didn't ask him straight out. And he told me that he did not want to hide. Um, he feels shame for what he's done. Um,
And so do you, if I'm not mistaken, that shame
yeah,
on your shoulders too.
I do feel ashamed, even though I didn't do this. These weren't my decisions. Um, Still, like, it's been an attack on me. Like, I don't feel like I should be speaking up. Like, who am I to say these things? Um, because, like, my own house hasn't been in order. How can I like tell other people how to organize theirs, right? Um, so I really think that that's been an attack of the enemy to silence me. And the enemy loves, like, one of his big things is to make you feel isolated. Like, you can't tell anybody what you're going through. Nobody would understand. Like, other people aren't going through this. And I know that there's a lot of people that are going through this, and a lot of people suffer in silence because they're ashamed. That's the enemy. So, part of the reason why I'm telling this today is to take back my power, and my husband has given permission for me to share this because he doesn't want to be hiding in the darkness about it anymore either. So yes, disclaimer, I've cleared it with my husband. Um, but so I was working a lot, and I was working at this craft store, and I was working at a private school teaching art and working in their preschool. And then I was also teaching with a homeschool group and teaching art with them. I like art. And I met a mom while I was teaching there, and her sons were amazing, and so we talked, and um, I had told her after classes one day, what I was going through. She prayed with me, and she was like, let's go out to coffee sometime. Let's go out to coffee. And her name is Norma. I asked her, and she said I could share her name. But I was like, yeah, yeah, okay, we'll go to coffee, right? Like, I'm allergic to caffeine. I don't even have coffee. Like, and I'm in the middle of depression. Like, I don't feel like going out and being sociable and having coffee. So it was just like one of those things that I was like, oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. That's a nice idea someday, but I had no intention of actually doing it. Um, and then we came back from this marriage intensive, and Norma messaged me, and she was like, "Hey girl, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I was like, "You know what's crazy? I have the day off. I have 3 jobs, and somehow I have the day off tomorrow. Isn't that crazy?" And then I realized what I just said, and I was like, "Oh no." And then she's like, "You want to go to coffee tomorrow?" And so I was like, "Yeah, let's meet up." So we went to coffee. I got a tea. And we're sitting there talking, and I was just pouring out my heart to her. I'm just, like I said, I was depressed. I was hopeless. And I was so sad about everything. And I was telling her, like, Norma, you don't understand. Like, Christmas is ruined, and Easter is ruined. Valentine's Day is ruined. Like, all the holidays are ruined. And I did not get the sympathy that I was expecting, because her response was, "But Crisi, you realize that all the holidays are pagan anyways, right?" And I was like, well,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I know the history.
pause for a minute. So
Yeah,
they were ruined because your husband ruined everything in what you're saying. That's what you were blaming. Okay,
yeah,
and she comes at you. It's
yeah. Norma didn't ruin them.
oh
Um,
Norma. Oh bless you, Norma. Oh,
um,
drops that bomb. This is great. I love Norma.
she is great. And the joke that we have, a little inside joke, is that she ruins everything. So, maybe Norma did ruin it. It was a good thing. But yeah, no, I was saying that because like nothing would ever be the same again. Like I would never have, the Christmas magic, because my life had changed through all of this. And I was like, well, yeah, I know the history. Like I love to research, right? So I knew like the history of the traditions. I said, I know the history, but that's not what it means to me. And when I said that, like it's like the words came out of my mouth and I couldn't like put them back in. Like, no, no, nobody saw that. Like it's out there. And when I said that, I realized how dismissive it was of me, because the Father says how he wants us to love him. And I wasn't loving him the way that he wants me to. And my husband had done that to me, and it hurt so bad. How could I do that to the Father? And then, Norma didn't help the situation, because she said it doesn't matter what it means to you, it matters what it means to him. And then she read me some verses. If it's okay, I'll read them. But Deuteronomy 12, verse 30. Guard yourself that you're not ensnared to follow them after they're destroyed from before you, that you do not inquire about their mighty ones, saying, how do these nations serve their mighty ones? Let me do so too. Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim, for every abomination which Yahweh hates they've done to their mighty ones, for they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their mighty ones. All the words I'm commanding you, guard to do it, do not add to it or take away from it. And I couldn't argue with that. It was so hard. I had no comeback. And like she's reading me words from the same Bible that I read. Like I knew that, like I'm looking at the Bible. I'm like, did she edit this? No, this is stuff that's been there always.
So there was something that happened that you could only now hear it.
Everything just like clicked in that moment. I can't, I can't put it any other way than I heard the Father calling me through what Norma's telling me, and I recognized his voice. So, she's showing me those verses, and I can't argue. She was absolutely right. And then she said, she shows me Leviticus 23, and she's like, these are the feasts that the Father wants us to be doing. Not this
She
Christmas
didn't
Eve.
go in gently with you. She just
No.
drop
Oh yeah.
everything on
She,
your head.
yes, like a nuclear bomb, like my brain, right?
Wow.
So she like showed me this, and then she's like, Chrissy, you know that Sunday's not the Sabbath, right? And she opens up to Genesis 1, and she's like, day one, day two, day seven, you rested. And I'm like, well, I know that Sunday is not like, I know what the Jews do, right? I know that they do it from like sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, but church is on Sunday. And so I can't, I'm like literally my arguments cannot stand up to what Norma is showing me in the Bible. And she had asked me, like, do you believe that what the word says is true? And I was like, yes. And she said, do you think the Father changes? And I said, no. And then she said, you're right. And she showed me the verses that say it, he's not a man that he should repent. He doesn't change. Like people change. They're imperfect, but the Father knows everything he knows the end from the beginning. And so we had this talk and my mind is like blown. And the next day, well, I came home that day and I wasn't talking to my husband. I was upset with him. And then the next day was the first day of lockdowns for COVID. So we were all stuck in the house together. And it was during the middle of the week and we're all home. I'm not at work. He's not at work. The kids are there. And so I was cooking in the kitchen and he was washing some dishes. And so I started talking to him and I was like, hey, my friend Norma was telling me these Bible verses. Do you think that we should start doing the Sabbath? And so he looks up the verses and he's like, yeah, I think we should. So we decided we're going to start keeping the Sabbath. But my only frame of reference, my only knowledge about keeping the Sabbath at that point was from Hollywood, really. Like Fiddler on a Roof. And I'm thinking, like, I know nothing about keeping the Sabbath. Like, I don't know how to make challah. I don't have two candles. Like, I don't have the special little incense that you're supposed to smell at the end of. I don't know how to keep the Sabbath. This is too much. I need to research. This is like too hard, right? Because I'm not grown up in this. And so it was like Wednesday when we decided this. And I was like, there's no way I can get this together by Friday. So we decided that we would start doing that next week. So we had like 10 days. And so we did it the next week. We're still in lockdown because we were in California and lockdown lasted a long time. And so we're in lockdown and I messaged Norma that evening and I told her Shabbat Shalom. And she was like, what? Like, and I sent her a picture of our tables, like the kids at the table or whatever. And she was just like amazed that, we're doing it. So so we started doing it. And we had no idea what we were doing. And I still didn't have two candles and I still didn't know how to make challah, by the way. It was just like we said that we were going to do it the next week, so we need to do it. And we fumbled through it. And okay, so I gotta turn the page. I got notes that I'm loosely following.
You're doing great.
Um,
This is wild. See, this part I didn't know. I had some anyway. You I'm intently listening.
yeah, it's kind of a wild story, but like when you,
He uses everything, right? Like
yeah,
COVID was a huge moment and like, that thing that happened, that what you discovered was going on with your husband was the catalyst for you accepting coffee with Norma.
yeah,
It's all we see the path, how it's perfectly designed.
yeah.
He
Well,
uses disasters to build amazing things.
all of this. pain, it humbled me. And so then when I was in that position, I was willing to listen, you know. I still think that what he did was inexcusable, you know, but I can see the beauty of all of it in that, like, it brought me to the Father. And if that's the only beautiful thing that I could ever see from it, that's enough, right? Like, it's more than I deserve. So, okay. So we're doing Shabbat, we're keeping Shabbat, and we're in lockdown. And I'm messaging with Norma, and she's like, as soon as we can get together, as soon as we're allowed to like go out of our house, like we're gonna have you guys over for Sabbath and we'll have dinner together or whatever. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm not being like isolating now, even though we're in isolation, really. Um, and finally Costco opened. And so we're gonna go to Costco, we're gonna get our groceries and stuff. And I was like, hey Norma, do you guys need anything while we go? And they needed toilet paper because everybody needed toilet paper during COVID. We were stocked up, but they needed it. So I'm like, cool, we'll pick it up for you. And so we got it. We like fought the crowds and got the toilet paper and I let Norma know. And so Norma's husband comes over to pick it up, pay me for the toilet paper and get it. And he came into my kitchen and he was like, you're gonna have to throw all this bread away. I was like, what's wrong with my bread? I just bought this bread. It's good. It's fresh. It's from Costco. We have like double loaves of everything. We got 6 people in the family. So like we go through a lot of bread and we're stuck in the house. So sandwiches it is, right? I'm like, what's wrong with my bread? And he said, well, unleavened bread's coming, Passover. And I was like, where is that in the Bible? Like, I've heard of Passover, like, watching the Ten Commandments when I was a kid. I really didn't know what that meant though. And I'm freaking out, you know? And so he's like, Leviticus 23, look it up, like he has to go. And I'm just like, oh no, what do I do? Like I've got to get ready for this. And it turns out, we found out later on that when we started doing the Sabbath, that week was the first Sabbath of the year. So, we had basically 14 days, well, less than 14 days from when we started doing the Sabbath to Passover. And again, I have like no frame of reference, like I haven't read all the verses and like I don't have all the context at this point. I just know that I've got to do it, because like I want to follow the Father's word and he says to do Passover and do unleavened bread. And so I've got to do it, but I don't know what to do. And I'm freaking out. So I'm like messaging Norma. I'm like, Norma, what do you do for a Seder plate? Like, and my husband and I are vegan. So I'm like, do you still get like a lamb shank? Or do we just do like a boiled beet so that it looks bloody? Like, what do we do? And she was like, well, we just keep it simple. We just do what the Bible says, And I was like, who does that? How is that possible? Like I'm the girl that did all the Christmas trees in all the rooms, like I overdid things.
You were eager to find out the traditions and how to do the things.
Yeah,
You
well,
wanted the complicated version of it.
yeah, I don't know how to simplify things. This might be a 5-minute talk for someone else, but we've been talking for a little bit. Um, so like I want to do it, but I want to do it right and I want to do it big because that's just kind of my personality and I want to make this special for my family. My kids don't understand why we're not going to be celebrating Easter. Like we didn't really bring them along for the ride as well as we could have. And so I'm trying to make them not feel like they're losing the holidays. And so I'm like stressing out trying to get this Seder plate together and like figure out what we're supposed to do. And so I found a video of like a Messianic rabbi giving like a walkthrough of like a Seder. And so we watched that, you know, that evening. And it was so confusing. He'd say, like, you pick up the wine and then he puts the wine back down afterwards. And we're like, are we supposed to drink the wine? You know, what are we doing here? Um, and so I knew that we were supposed to do it and we did it, but I didn't really get as much out of it, if you know what I mean. Like, I was just so overwhelmed, but we got through it, right? And we got rid of the bread. Well, really, when Norma's husband told me that we had to get rid of the bread, I was like, everybody eat the bread now.
And do you still do, Chrissy, do you still, this was quite a while ago, do you still do some of those more kind of Jewish traditions at Sabbath or any of the, like, do you have a Seder plate during your Passover now?
No, we don't have a Seder plate. That year I was stressing out to do it. But then since then, like reading through what's actually in scriptures, it says nothing about a Seder plate. Like that's
I'm
a
asking
tradition.
because I have noticed a lot of people, just depending where we're finding, there's all kinds of people who observe Torah in all kinds of different ways. And I do see a lot of people who leave the traditions of the Christian church and then they end up celebrating Hanukkah instead of Christmas. So,
Yes, yeah.
it all is what it is. I'm just curious personally of how you guys are doing it. If you came in really through the stress of doing the ceremonies of when to bless the kids and when to light the candles. I first did my Sabbaths with a Messianic family who leaned very heavily on all of the Jewish traditions that now my Sabbath looks nothing with my
Yeah.
like it did then. I
Yeah, same. I remember we had candles, after a week or two, and I was stressed out if I didn't get them lit in time because like it's posted what time Sabbath starts, like what time sunset it um is, but then like tradition is to start at like I don't know what, like 40 minutes before that. And so I was like stressing out. I was under some massive attack every Sabbath, like well, prep day. Like I would get so stressed out. I would have a meltdown at my family because I was trying to do it right. And I didn't want to do it wrong. I didn't want to be, you know, displeasing to the Father. And so I was putting myself under so much pressure to like
It's so
do all the
ironic, isn't it?
things.
Like this is our rest day, and here we are freaking out, trying to get all the things done. And yeah,
Yeah.
I learned really quickly to not stress on the Sabbath. Sabbath is not meant to be a stress. I even
Well, it
rip
was
toilet paper on.
it was prep day that was the big stress for me. Um, but then I realized after about a month, like I started putting two and two together and realizing that I'm having these meltdowns like on prep day and realizing that like it was stealing my joy and also my family's too because I'm like flipping out. So everybody else is miserable because mom is miserable, you know? Um, so we started out, trying to do all the things. Um, and then we realized, that's a lot of traditions. And not all traditions are bad, but we left doing things out of tradition, like we were raised with Christmas, and so we did Christmas, and we never thought about really why we're doing it. And so we're coming into this thing, and I didn't want to pick up traditions mindlessly. I wanted it to be like, if we're going to do something, if we're going to make like little family tradition, I want it to, be good while we're doing it. So for us, for Passover, we do we use the Torah sisters Seder that we've altered a little bit. Um, and like we have friends over for dinner and people bring foods and like somebody brings lamb, that's cool. But I also, make little jokes like, are you gonna burn that? Like the leftover, we got a fire going. Like we'll it's tradition to like burn some leaven, right? So we have a fire that we light before Passover starts and we throw our tortillas and our bread in there. Um, but it's not commanded that we do it. We understand that that's tradition. It's a good tradition. Sabbath, my husband usually recites Proverbs 31, which is a tradition, but we feel it's a good one and it blesses me. And I think it also helps him to like be mindful, What an excellent wife he has. Um, so anyways, all right. So um and around in July, we had our first like fellowship meetup that we were still pretty much in lockdown in California because it went a long time. But we're kind of going counter to what the government's saying and stuff, that we actually went to somebody's house and we brought food and ate together. And I even posted pictures that another lady had taken of us dancing in the backyard, that we were trying to learn like some Hebraic dance. And we weren't wearing masks. And I had posted it on my profile, and my dad was just like coming down on me because we weren't wearing masks and we were like in close proximity to other people. Like I was literally in the circle, there's space between us, and we're outdoors, but it wasn't good enough, you know. He was really concerned about me catching germs, and he even thought so much that I was going to die from getting this. And all right, when COVID started, I had anxiety like the first 2 or 3 days, right? And then I found Psalm 91. And so by July, I'm just like, nothing's gonna touch me, that, the Father says that he's gonna protect me. If something does touch me, then it's his will, right? And I can't stop his will. But I have no reason to be afraid. And so my dad and I didn't see eye to eye on that one. And people were really not understanding what we were doing. And they're asking, like, are you like Seventh-day Adventist? Um, are you turning Jewish? They would ask. Like they're, asking all these things. And I'm messaging Norma, like, Norma, what is this called? Because I'm still thinking like, this must be a new denomination. And I'm like, are we messianic? Are we Torah observant? Like, what is this? And she just said, we just read the whole Bible and we believe it's all relevant and we try to do what it says. And so I would tell people that, and they were like, that's not an answer. They they wanted a label, and I didn't have a label for them. Um, so we started meeting with a group of families, and things went really well. Like we were able to do Sukkot together with these other families, and they knew more. We were the new ones. Everybody else knew what they were doing, or they had more experience than us. So it was really great. And then I was able to see, like, through doing the feast through the whole year, it was really bringing the Bible to life, like seeing the reason for, the different feasts and how it ties into Yeshua, like the past and the future. Um, it was amazing. So, like we're in. Um, and every mainstream holiday that came up, we would re-examine, like, is this good to do? Why would we do it? And I remember like Thanksgiving was coming up, and I know not everybody like sees eye to eye with me on this. I'm not judging anyone. But Thanksgiving was coming up, our first year of following the word, and we were like, are we going to do this? And I started researching and found out, some of the like pagan things that were, traditions that were celebrated, with harvest festivals and things like that. And then I also looked at it practically, and, you know, why would I stress out and cook for a day or two to make a meal for Thursday and then have to turn around on Friday to make more of another feast, right? Like that's just stressful. Why would I do that to myself? And then I was like, the Father gives us so many feasts. Like sometimes I feel like another one. Are you kidding me? Like there's another high day Like we just had Passover. We're in unleavened bread. What do you mean? What is this first fruits,
It
you
is
know?
funny. It's funny to me, and again, whatever, we're not, we can keep saying, oh, we're not judging, whatever. I don't mind. I did Thanksgiving for the first time this year because I have new American family that I never had before. And I went
Yeah.
down and that was the time that people had off of work, is what it
Yeah.
was. But then when I also see people adding the Hanukkah and Purim and all the other types of holidays, there are so many of them. I'm just like, okay, if we stick to what's in the Bible, it's, as you're saying, it's even hard to keep up to
Yeah.
taking all the time off work, but we're on the Gregorian calendar too, right? Like they put, everybody gets Easter off, everybody gets Christmas off. It's wild
It's true. Yeah, but
in the world, even if we're trying to then go back to the way
yeah.
it was supposed to be, we're having to navigate around all of these worldly holidays that are just thrown at us.
Yeah. Well, I know people that are like sad for us. They're sad because my kids don't get to do like the normal holidays, and they don't get to go to, the county fair on Saturday, or, and they feel bad for us.
I
And
had
I'm like,
I I
there's
I was with non-believing family the other day, and um there were grapes. For whatever reason, the treat was grapes covered in jello.
uh,
So my children are great. They read the backs of everything. I have not said to them, you're not allowed to eat pork products. I haven't said anything.
mm,
They just hopped on it immediately once I did. They got it. And then my daughter goes to accept one of these grapes that was covered in jello. And
yeah,
my son goes, Emily, it's gelatin. And she dropped the grape. She just didn't clue in because we don't have gel. We've never been a house that has these things, don't have jello.
yeah,
And then the look I got, like I was the worst mother in the world for not letting my kids eat Jello.
how dare you?
But we never did Santa Claus either, even though we did gifts and we did do Christmas to some extent. I, from the very beginning, told my kids that Santa was a lie. And
Mhm.
again, that was the I am taking, and it's funny
Yeah,
because my kids were raised in Montreal, which is there's a lot of Jewish people around. And I remember just saying, like, I have Jewish friends. Their kids are fine not ever
right,
having celebrated Christmas. It's not really a big deal. But it's
right.
next level, of course. We're depriving them because they don't see all the gifts of the feasts are so, and I'm very new to them, but they're so rich. Like there's nothing more rich and beautiful than what we're given.
Yeah. Well, that's the conclusion that I came to, that like actually, if I think about like all the feasts, including Shabbat, right? I get a holiday, I get a special day at least once a week. It's sometimes more than once a week. I have an abundance. Like we have so many special days. Like we're not missing out on anything. In fact, our life is actually overflowing now with special days, where I used to have to, like, oh my goodness, it's going to be such a long time between 4th of July and Labor Day. Like, what can we do to cause more celebrations? I don't have to do that anymore. My kids get special days so often. Like, it's such a blessing to do it the way that the Father intended it. It's so amazing. But so yeah, we came up on Thanksgiving and I was like, you know what? He's given us so many special days. Why do I need to add to what he's given us? It's just going to be stress for me, like I can make fall themed foods, the stuff that we would eat normally at Thanksgiving before. I can still make that for Shabbat, or, I can make it any time of the year. I don't have to wait for Thanksgiving because I have a craving. I used to make my kids wait to get a new jacket until Christmas. It's already cold by then. They need a jacket, Why am I delaying to give my kids good things, right? So I think it's wonderful that, and we did the same examination with Hanukkah, that like I did not want to go from this tradition to that tradition. I didn't want to just like substitute, like, well, we're not doing Christmas, but we could do Hanukkah. Um, but there's some history of that also. Before we came to Torah, we were, because, I had to overdo every holiday. So we started exploring Hanukkah. And the year before we came to, the truth, we were doing Hanukkah, and I got a Hanukkah that year, and it came with a little booklet that, like as you light each candle, you're supposed to say this blessing. And so my husband was like fumbling through it. And first he tried to like pronounce it in Hebrew because they had like little phonetic pronunciation. And then he read it in English, and the blessing in English said, blessed are you, um, Adonai, who commanded us to light the Hanukkah candles. And when he said that, I was like, is that commanded? Like, I didn't even realize at that time that I'm already questioning, I'm already chapter and versing things, before all that, but it just didn't sit well with me that like we're praying and saying that we've been commanded to do something that we haven't. Um, So when we came up to Hanukkah that year, like some of the people in the fellowship were going to get together and have a party, and they were going to make like little gingerbread Maccabee men, and they're going to do this and that, and it was very similar to Christmas to me. It seemed like a substitution, and so we decided to not do that because we just have so many reasons to celebrate already. Like I didn't need to add to the Father's word. Um, we did read the story the year before, that same year when I was like, this doesn't sound right when we were lighting the candles. I was like, we're gonna listen to the story of the Maccabees, right? We're gonna listen to the story where it talks about the oil lasting for all this time. And so we listened to the whole thing, and I'm like waiting, like any second now, we're gonna hear about the oil lasting for 8 days, right? It's coming. I know it. I can feel it. We are in the story to the point where this is going to happen, and it never happened. And I was like, what? What's going on here? Because like that's what I thought Hanukkah was all about, like celebrating the miracle of the oil. That's why we like would fry potato latkes,
To
right? And
me,
donuts.
it's just amazing that you were able to discover all of this on your own. I know all the stuff you're saying, but I know it because other people, you know what I mean? You went step by step in understanding where these traditions were being added in. I just kind of like, it was kind of a package deal. By the time I arrived on the Torah scene, it's like you just kind of, do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
how can I say it? I didn't have to find out step by step that these were all Jewish traditions. I knew coming into it that these were,
Uh,
do you know what I mean? And you just kind of very quickly uncovered each one for yourself, where you were waiting for the thing in the Bible, and then it was not actually in the Bible. You're like, okay, somebody wrote about it somewhere else.
yeah, little by little, it all got ruined, but it's like a
Was
beautiful
it
thing.
Norma's fault?
Thanks, Norma. Um, we would joke that she ruins things, but now, I also ruin things. So I'm like, learning from Norma and perpetuating that for others. So yeah, so we didn't do Hanukkah. Came up on the next Passover. It was wonderful. And we had these like core families in our fellowship, and in the meantime, my daughter was kind of not adjusting well to us coming into Torah and doing all these things. And I had chosen to take my daughters out of public school, and I quit my job as a private school teacher. Um, there was just so much conflict, like I'm the art teacher. I was doing like all like I had the best Halloween costumes, right? Because I'm the art teacher. And then suddenly I'm not doing Halloween anymore, and I felt like it was wrong to even be like helping the kids do the crafts that other teachers assigned, and I was super in conflict with everything. And then COVID was making things miserable. It was just taking the joy out of working the school because I was spending more time cleaning up the bathroom after each child, in the preschool used the bathroom, then getting to interact with the kids. And, I'm having to wear sometimes double masks, even outside. Um, like we couldn't even just wear like the shield. I would have to wear the mask and the shield. And um, it's just like there was no joy in doing that. And so, and then my daughters are being exposed to things. They're doing school from home, while I'm at the private school giving those kids their best childhood. My kids are online and they're being exposed to things, and we're in California, so they're being taught a lot of things too. And at first I thought I could reconcile that, but the longer that we're in the word, the more like it was not okay. So I pulled them out of public school and I quit my job and I was home with them. And my daughter wasn't happy about that. My dad died. So that was upsetting, of course. And my daughter was going into junior high, starting junior high. So she's at that age. It's a difficult age for kids and parents. Um, and so we had some conflicts. And she was going to the kids in the fellowship, and I know she was upset when she's telling them her perspective on things. Um, but I think that there was some extra details added because she was emotional. And then she's telling the kids, and the kids were the one girl in particular went to her mother, and she's telling her this stuff. And when the mother heard it, she didn't come to us. She didn't come to me. She came to this couple that had decided that they were in charge of the fellowship. And the couple called us to their house, and they proceeded for it was about 2 to 3 hours of reading off of a list of accusations. And I was in tears, and my husband didn't stand up for me. So it was kind of me against them. And they were just accusing me of child abuse, basically. And I was telling him like some of these things are based in truth. Like an example, I don't want to get like too into details, but I'll give you one example. Um, One time I got frustrated with my daughter. She had hit the vacuum hose up against the wall and like made like a dent in the drywall. And I got frustrated and I to her shoulder. And that turned into when they're confronting me, they said that I close fist punched her. And so there was some truth in it. I did get frustrated. Like there was a physical contact, but it was literally a flip of the wrist. It wasn't a punch, right? And so, I tried to explain to them and I was like, what do I do? Like the wife said I would talk to her and the husband said I would not talk to her. And so I didn't talk to her at first. And we continued to go to the fellowship. There were some other things that happened before. They were saying that I was using Lashon Hara because there was a homeless man that came to our fellowship in our house, um, that was talking to himself, and he said that he had dominion over demons. And I had said afterwards, well, first, after everybody left, I went through the whole house and prayed because I felt that this was a spiritual thing and I wanted to just cleanse my house of that. But the next week I had told the group that um, I didn't feel good about, you know, that situation. And I was told that I shouldn't slander people. I shouldn't use Lashon Hara. And then there was a well-known teacher, Torah teacher, um, that it turns out that this couple loved. But I had seen when we first started like fellowshipping and they had mentioned this person. I had seen a website that had some accusations of him not being upright always. And so I had asked in front of the group what they thought about that because they were talking about doing a teaching by him for like our study group. And they told me again I shouldn't use Lashon Hara. And I never said that it was true or anything. I was just like, have you seen this and what do you think? So they were upset with me. And all I could figure was that they were trying to get back at, put me in my place for speaking up. Um, so we had that meeting. I wasn't supposed to talk to my daughter about it. We went to fellowship the next week on Shabbat. And it turned out that the wife took my daughter aside and was pumping her for information. They never asked if that was okay to, speak to our daughter alone. And she was telling her things like, we'll have a code word, like a safety word. And they just like left at the end of the day. I was like, bye. And like they just left. And I'm like, maybe they didn't hear me. I didn't know what had happened. And I didn't know that they were trying to get all this information from my daughter. And so, and then Sabbath ended, and the husband sent my husband a really accusing text message. Like basically, he couldn't believe that he was married to me, like I'm a monster. And my husband didn't respond to that. And we just didn't go to fellowship anymore. And our friends, I didn't really want to talk about even what was going on because I'm ashamed because of what's going on. But they were having to come to our house after dark because they're afraid to be seen coming in and out of our house. And then one day, the girls and I were leaving to go to the beach, and I opened up the door, and there was two women standing on the front at the front porch, and they were from Child Protective Services. And there had been a complaint, an anonymous complaint made, but I knew who it was, and they were accusing me of child abuse. And they were saying things like I made my daughter wear hoodies to cover up bruises, and I had told her that if anybody asked, that she was supposed to say that she ran into doorknobs. Um, and that's why she had bruises. My daughter didn't have bruises. I wasn't abusing her, but this is the accusation, that CPS came with. And then 2 weeks later, they came again and said that the second day after the first report was made, there was a second report made. So thankfully, like CPS had to do their job. They had to investigate. We all had to be individually interviewed and everything, but thankfully they saw, the truth through it. They didn't try to like prosecute and, remove kids and things like that. I know I've heard so many stories of things going differently, but we still had to deal with that. And I had the shame of, somebody accusing me of that and, the government coming and investigating, and that hurt a lot. But so we just didn't have a lot to stay in our state for. And that was kind of the end of it. Like we didn't have my family wasn't supportive. My friends didn't understand what we're doing. They think that I've lost my mind. And now we don't even have fellowship with with, with other people. So that prompted us to move. We started looking into like leaving the state because California was just nuts anyways.
When now,
And
what was this timeline wise? I feel like this wasn't too long ago.
that was in during Sukkot in 2021 is when my husband was interviewing within his company for transfers. So so we transferred, um and we're in the southern United States now. Um We're not in California anymore. But it wasn't too far away from Jacob's tent. And so I was watching a lot of it online, and I was thinking, we're not too far away. Like it's like 2 hours away. We could go. And one Shabbat, I was watching it, and the camera settled in the congregation on this couple. And I was like, oh man, like I had like this adrenaline because I'm basically seeing my abusers, right in front of me on the Sabbath, like I wasn't prepared for that. They had moved, and I thought that they went back to where she was from, but then I heard that they had gone to Tennessee. But then I thought maybe they went to a different congregation, and then, I'm finding out that's where they're going. So we can't go. Um, I didn't want to run into them, and I was like, they could have Tennessee. They could have the whole state. I don't want anything to do with it. I need to stay away. I need to like protect myself.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Um, but it was totally a trauma response, and like I didn't want to I didn't want to be persecuted anymore, I didn't want to put myself in the place where like, they could hurt me more. And so we stayed away for a long time. And in the meantime, we have fellowship here, and um my daughters have friends that are their age that are like also on this walk. And they are different than they were then too in the beginning. They've grown a lot, but their friends kept on saying like, "You have to come to Revive. You have to come to Revive." And I was like, "Yeah, like another one of those. Yeah, we'll go to coffee sometime. Like yeah, we'll go to Revive." And like I told, this was my scary Sukkot story that you tell by the fire. That I would tell them about how somebody had called CPS on us, like I joke and I say that's a day 3 Sukkot story, because by day 3, like you're kind of exhausted and like the mask comes off and you start being like real with people, you know? Like the first day everybody's still like, oh, I'm not sure what this person thinks of me and I'm like not as comfortable, but day 3 you're in from some stories, like you're gonna hear the truth. You're gonna find out who this person really is. So I joke around, this was the day 3 Sukkot story. Um, so my friends knew, or the parents knew that I didn't want to go to Revive because I knew that these people would be there, and I was afraid. Um, but we actually this year I decided that I was not going to let the fear control me anymore. And I knew my friends were going to be there, so I would have support. And we went, and on Shabbat, uh, like after the beginning of the service, my daughter came to me and she said that she thought she saw the husband outside when she was coming out of the bathroom, but she wasn't sure. And so I was like, okay, this might be happening. And then my husband told me, I think I see the wife, and she's back there in a yellow shirt. And I looked back, and I couldn't tell if it was her because somebody's head was blocking her face. I could see like the top of her head and I could see her body. And it looked like, it looked like I remembered her, but I couldn't see her face. So I didn't know for sure. And then there was the time that it was time to like greet the people around you. And so I looked around and I saw it was her. And I told my friend, I'm like, she's right there. And she said, well, go and say hi. And I said, bet. And I just left to go and say hi to her. And I told her Shabbat Shalom, and she like saw me, and then she like processed and realized who I was, and she was really surprised. And then went back to my seat after greeting her. I gave her a hug, and so I was back in my seat, and it was amazing that the Father, gave me the strength for that, to be able to hug her. Um, and I didn't feel like the adrenaline or like the fear in that moment. I was totally supported by him. And so, we went through the service, and the service actually, like I know that this happens a lot when people like go to church, they feel like the pastor wrote the message just for them. Um, I'm sure that the message was not written just for me, but it was so fitting because the Torah portion that week was about Balak and Balaam, and how the reason that the Israelites couldn't be cursed is because the Father had blessed them. And no man has the power to curse what the Father's blessed. And that gave me so much just like encouragement and strength, knowing that the reason why what these people had planned for evil for us didn't work was because the Father had blessed me. So they're not going to be able to curse me. And so it was wonderful. And I felt really uplifted by the message. And then after the service, we looked and they were coming up the aisle. And I didn't know exactly what to do, but they came up, and before I could say anything, they said, "Hey, it's been a long time since we've talked, and we've thought a lot about what's happened, and we wanted to ask for your forgiveness for however it is that we've hurt you." And I was able to tell them in response that I forgave them, that I'd been wanting to tell them that. And so, we're not like super besties now, or anything like that, but that that fear and that shame doesn't have a control over me anymore. Um, and so I don't know, that experience was just like restorative to me. It doesn't have control over me anymore. And the Father, I think that he's glorified in all of this because he tells us to give forgiveness. Um, so I was able to do what he's telling me to do.
You had forgiveness with, I mean, there was a repentance there too. There was an apology. I
Yeah.
think maybe sometimes the difference is when if they had done everything they had done and not actually apologized to your face, it might have been a little bit harder or not even possible or not even warranted to forgive them, but they came and they
Well, I mean, I carried this around for 4 years, this hurt, but before we went, I'd already decided that I'd forgiven them. It it did cause a lot of pain in my life, but I'm able to see, the beauty of it. And it didn't it didn't discourage me from following the Father and his ways, like there are unfortunately some people that are um they're hurt people and they hurt people. Um and they're even within our movement. Um and I found that out the hard way. But like these people are not the Father, and I want to follow him. I don't want to follow other people. So, yeah. So, sorry, that was a little rabbit trail.
No, I think it's important, Chrissy, because you highlighted I mean, don't apologize. I think it was important that you recognize the restoration in it for you because I think a lot of this testimony, the whole point is the healing that you're coming to
Yeah. And
with
there's hope.
people, with other human beings who, um, and it's not about victimizing you. Don't think
Right.
that's what your testimony is about, but there is you know, there's a legitimate pain of somebody who in the story I heard, and of course I'm biased because I love you, having been put in a situation that was completely unfair, and who knows all the reasons why that happened. You know,
Well,
nothing else for you to come to this circle and this place of forgiveness, maybe.
I mean, to me, there's no doubt that I've been a victim of other people's actions, but I don't have to stay in that. I can move forward. I can grow from it, even though like it's an unpleasant situation. And at the time, I don't understand why it's happening to me, but the Father can use that to grow me and change me and even to have victory. So, I mean, it's not what I would have chosen. Like nobody's like, yeah, sign me up for the pain and suffering package. But there's beauty that could come out of it. And so that leads me to why some people know me as Hebrew Hahas. Um, because I do cope with a lot of like, man, I've been through a lot of hurt. Um, but if I can laugh at it, I can get through it. And sometimes my sarcasm is intensified by the pain. So I used to share on my personal page, memes, uh, things that I thought were funny, or, like, even before we came to like the truth, I'd be randomly reading the Bible like in church or whatever, and like come across a story and just like chuckle out loud at an inappropriate time because I was like, did nobody else just see that? That's hilarious. Like maybe their God is pooping on the toilet. Like nobody else is gonna laugh at how funny that is. So, yeah, I was sharing these things and my friends that were not on the walk. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that not are even believers, and they were getting angry. It was really setting them off that I was sharing this stuff and I was sharing, Shabbat Shalom and all this. They didn't understand, and this is different from the Crisi that they've always known. Um, and I think they wanted their old Crisi back. Um, so like it made me really happy to share, but at the same time, like I was dealing with a lot of like blowback from that. And so it was kind of stressful. Part of me liked, like rocking the boat, but then part of me is like, I'm gonna have to deal with this. And yeah, I lost a lot of friends over it too. And so finally I decided that I was gonna start a different page, just where I could share these things. And I would just add people that wanted to see this stuff, so I wouldn't be inconveniencing other people really. Um, so so I started Hebrew Hahas about a year and a half ago. And it's really amazing, like the community that's been built through it.
I had no idea it was a year and a half ago. I thought this pre-existed. I I'm blown away actually because it seems I don't know how many people are following it, but it must be the entire art community. I think it's a huge stage. I thought for sure you had been building it for many years. That's I mean I guess it goes to show that we need it. You know, it is choosing this path or being chosen for this path, however you want to put it. It's so heavy. Like there's no one that gets through this without,
Yeah,
you know,
some battle scars.
thing about Neo. Oh no, I was talking to another sister on the phone today about she said like I feel like I'm Neo dodge just like dodging these bullets since this path. It's like it doesn't end. Everything is so intense all the time that
Mhm.
and people are so nasty with each other all the time. Like you gave this example of something very concrete and real that happened in your life for who knows what reason, but just the day to day of the fighting over stupid things that the Bible literally tells us not to fight about, you know? And it's like the people in this community, if we can call it that, are so smart and know so much, and there is actually a lot of ego there. So people
Yeah.
just like hit each other with all of this, like, you know. are you an idiot? Of course Sabbath isn't on Friday night. How can you be so stupid? Or like whatever
Right.
the thing is, whether it's name pronunciations or calendars or all of the oh gosh, to fight about that stuff, like get a life, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Like there's so many I guess that's why I love your page is that it's just like okay, can we just relax and laugh a little bit and stop taking ourselves so seriously? Like our lives are so serious because we've committed to this path. That's the
Yeah.
serious thing. Let's like
Yeah.
have a little lightness here, please.
Yeah, everything is up for jokes in on that page because yeah, like we need to like some people just act ridiculously and it is funny as an outsider to see this happening. Like, are you for real? You're really saying this, you're really doing this. But then it's also like I was that person, like when I'm making fun of like, churchianity, I
Mhm.
was that person. I I was the person posting pictures of bacon to be inflammatory towards, people that didn't eat it.
Mhm.
And the Father's changed my heart, but I understand like from that part. And now I'm, on a different in a different paradigm,
I just feel like I don't feel like the stuff that you put up there is particularly mean. Like there's some making fun of churchianity that I see that is actually mean where I'm like, oh, like
Yeah.
or there's some things that are posted. Oh, I love Seth. I don't know him in person. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I know he knows, but some of the things he posts and like you laugh and like you do it too, I guess. I laugh and I know I'm not supposed to be laughing because it's so true, but it's so brutal. So I guess
Yeah.
like there's something you don't want to shame and like make fun of people and call them stupid for not understanding it. But then like and that you put one, I think I can put it up on the screen here, right here. The
Ooh,
face, the face that what was it? The face that people make when I say I don't eat pork or something
pork.
like that. I
Yeah.
laughed and I just thought to myself, like, where can I post this that it's going to be okay to post? Like, I just couldn't. So I just sent it in my personal fellowship group because it was just, I mean, it's hilarious. And the people who get it. And I guess I no longer want to, I don't really want to, I don't have any really Christians in my life anymore. I lost everybody I went to church with. The church made sure that they didn't talk to me anymore. It was really quite brutal. So I don't, and everybody's either blocked or unfriended or at least unfollowed. So they don't see the stuff I post anyway. So there's little chance I'll offend anybody anymore. The people following my page usually, for the most part, either don't care or believe exactly like we believe. I guess I don't want to make fun of anybody. So there is a it's hard because even like stand-up comedians, like somebody's going to get offended. That's why it's funny. It's because
Yeah.
it's somewhere. But anyway, I've never been offended by anything you posted, but it's probably because we're like on mostly the exact same page. So it's not offensive. It's just funny.
Yeah, some people get really offended. I know that I post sometimes inflammatory memes, but I try to sprinkle it, in, so that it's not all.
Yeah, it's not brutal. It's not like the page. I find the page funny. It's not aggressive, like nasty funny. But yeah, sometimes there are stuff where, but I just laugh because I
Did
mean,
she just say that? Yeah, she did. Um, well, and some of the things, a lot, like probably 75% of what I post is other people's posts. I call it foraging on the internet. So I share other people's things. Um, but I do make my own also. And a lot of times it's just inspired by life. Um, but yeah, it's funny. I also like post Bible verses or like meanings of, Hebrew words and things like that. I try to like mix it in so that it's well-rounded and nobody feels attacked,
yep, it's well said. I do think you have a really, really nice balance. I really do. I appreciate it, and I mean, I don't go and stalk the page necessarily, but the algorithm happily puts that page in front of my face often enough, and it's. I mean, yeah, it's always a nice chuckle.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting though, it sets people off sometimes because Like sometimes I'll post something and I'll know like there's going to be discussions from this, right? Sometimes I can't wait to see what comes of it, you know? Like I want people to be respectful in their discussions. I don't want people to be like hateful and rude. Um, but I do feel like we can discuss difficult subjects with respect to each other. Um, like we can still be kind even if we're being direct. It's, we can do that. Um, but then sometimes I'm like, okay, I've got to go to like the grocery store and do some errands. I've got some appointments, so I'm going to post something benign. I'm going to post a Bible verse so that people, like the kids will behave, right? Because mom is going to be away for a while, so we're just going to do something that's not going to rile them up, but then they have a post for a while. So like recently I posted, I was going to be busy, and so I was like, this is going to be like a light one. People could just get some encouragement, and it was love one another. And it just said love one another, and it had the Bible verse reference and love one another Bible verse reference. And I thought that's going to be cool. And I came back to like people were like losing it over love one another. So sometimes I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm
And
gonna have to go and find it because I'm quite puzzled by what I mean, people can take offense if they're looking for it, they're gonna find contention, and
yeah,
I'm very curious to see what people pulled up as offensive.
right. But I posted like Ferris Bueller memes, and like those were really well received, and people are laughing at it and stuff, and like things that could have been like
Mhm.
upsetting to some people or whatever. That's all cool, but then I posted love one another and people are losing it. So
You really
it
just never know
yeah.
what
Um
to share that day.
yeah. And sometimes, like this week I posted Shabbat Shalom, and there was a person that was taking issue with they didn't feel that that was the day of the Sabbath, and they were really aggressive in their explanation of it and trying to teach. And sometimes things feel kind of discouraging, the way that people treat each other and treat me. And sometimes I think, maybe I won't do this anymore. Like from the perspective of the person that's running the page, when people act like that, it's not so fun, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not,
you would wonder if it's worth it. Is it all worth
yeah,
it? If there's so, but then I imagine, and I know from my own experience too, with every person who flips out, there could be three people who find it edifying, and or
yeah,
even the opposite. For every three people who flip out, there's one person who learns something. And I think that for that one person whose day you uplift, or who has a question about the Bible answered, that it's worth it to keep going.
yeah. Absolutely. Because that one person, there was like, I think 41 messages between me and them, and some other people started to like jump in and ask questions and say things. But then there was a whole string of other comments. People even just saying Shabbat Shalom, but some of the people were saying like, I look forward to this every week. Like, thank you so much for posting it. These are beautiful. It's really encouraging to me. So, like, as much as I try to be an encouragement to other people, I'm getting encouraged. So it's really cool how that works.
And you can focus on that. I can't remember what I posted something today about how much I love you, and we can keep ha-haing together. I
Yeah,
can't remember what it was, but I could see that there were people like I try to avoid drama, and I just stay in my echo chamber, and I feel for you. I feel there's a few characters around the internet that seem to bear the brunt of everybody's frustration, and you seem to, I mean, you just said sometimes you ask for it, but sometimes you don't ask
yeah.
for it. You still
Well, and sometimes when you ask for it, you're not ready for the response you're going to get anyways. But overall, like I never ever would have thought that my ministry was going to be as a meme lord. Like I didn't know that that was a ministry, but I am nailing it.
Really are, and it is a gift. It really is a gift. My husband Jesse is quite that's like he didn't pick me up, but when we were first chatting, he was sending me quite a few memes that he had made himself about Torah stuff, and it was just it really is a gift. Not everybody can do what you guys do. It's some of us make videos, some of us do this, and some people are meme lords, and you
Yeah, I need to like stalk Jesse's page and like go and forge a little bit because the one that I reposted the other day was hilarious to
pretty
me.
funny, right? And they're so niche. Like there's stuff that like either you get it or you don't. And actually during that time when we were first chatting, he sent me a few that I wasn't on the path enough to understand what they were. There was one weird Dave Chappelle one. Anyway, I'll get him to send you a few that I'm sure you're gonna absolutely get a kick out of because that's your world, right? Your world is there to part of your world anyway is to
Right.
bring joy and I'm super, super grateful for it. What else do you have on your list of points that you wanted to bring? I love Chrissy seeing that you're smiling. This is exactly what I was hoping this conversation would come to.
Well, even though I try to keep like the two pages, my personal page and the ha-has separate, I feel like I'm the same person. You know, I don't have the mental energy. Maybe I'm just too lazy to like invent different personalities and like have different stories running, you know? Like this is who I am. It's just on one page. I'm just sharing about, you know, faith stuff. On the other page, I'm sharing about like my family and personal things. Um, but I mean, the laughter, you know, the sense of humor is consistent. Um, I'm the same person, although I do go by a different name on the Ha-Ha's page. I go by Yael. Um, and I think that's the last thing that I have on my list. But I'll tell the story about that.
Please.
Uh, so my name that I was given when I was born was Christiana, and I always in the past I always thought that was you know beautiful um, because I was a Christian and I was basically named Little Christ. You know that's what Christian the Christiana means, little Christian, and I thought that was great. But then when I was going through like the pain of um, the betrayal that I went through. And I was crying out to the Father. One day I was driving and I was just thinking about how, you know, Yeshua was persecuted. Um, he even went to death on the cross for the stake for us. And when we name our child, that's like giving them a gift. That's their destiny for them. So all of a sudden I felt like my name was more of a curse than a blessing because I thought my parents basically like wished a really difficult life on me. And I was just crying out to the Father, like, why is this my name? Stopped identifying with my name. I didn't know, you know, I didn't know what else to be called because I, you know, that's the name that I had. But I was like, why do I have this name? And that was actually before Coffee with Norma. um, it was probably close to a year before that. Um, then after being in the Word, you know, I was reading about, you know, with the story of Ruth. Um, Naomi, you know, she says that her name is different. Um, like it was a major life change for her, and her name changed also because the meaning of her life was bitter, and so her name meant bitterness, right? Um, and there's different people in the Bible that their names have been changed. Most of the time, when their names are changed, it's a sign of ownership. When Daniel went to Babylon, his name was changed. Belteshazzar, I think it was. it was a sign because that king, the sovereign, had the power over this man's life to the point that he could change his name, change his identity. When Abram and Sarai, um, when they came under the father's um, headship, they were renamed. Um, Jacob in becoming Israel, he's coming under the covenant with the father, and the father said, "This is your name now." And Jacob had a hard time using his new name because you keep on reading, like he's told his name is Israel, and then the next verse it'll be like, "And Jacob did this." Like I thought his name was Israel. But anyways, and there's a Bible verse that says that the Father will give us a new name that like only he knows. And so I was praying to the Father that he would like tell me what my name is because I didn't feel like this name was right for me. And I was also like coming out of Christianity and starting to see kind of the ugliness of like what I was taught all those years and everything. And I really didn't want to be associated with that. And my middle name to me was even worse because it was Elena. And that name goes back to like Queen Helena, Constantine's mom. And even researching further, it's it means bright, shining light. And who else is a bright light but good old Lucifer himself, right? And so like my name was like I'm connecting that name with all of that darkness, really, even though it means light. And so I was just asking the Father to like tell me what my name is. And when I read the story in Judges with Yael, like that name I just kept on coming back to. And she was a strong warrior woman, like you have to have some courage to stick a tent peg through a man's head. Um, and it brought the Father glory, to do that. She helped to facilitate Israel winning that battle because of what she did. And so I just started like that name stuck out to me. And then, like from the ha-has side of it, you know, she nailed it, you know. And so yeah, that I believe that's the name that the Father's given me. But it's still hard, like with the people that have known me my whole life. Or even when we moved here, I still was introducing myself as Crisi. It's difficult to be like, yeah, call me this name that like other people don't know me by. But when I started up Hebrew Hahas, I started signing as Yael on there. So that's why I have two different names.
I don't know what to call you now. I quite like it.
Call me sister.
Well, I'm blessed by having listened to your story. I mean, we already know we could talk for hours often. We don't, but we could probably talk for hours often. And I wish that you were closer, and I wish that you could come and help me with my spread at my wedding in a couple of
I
weeks.
know.
It'd be great if we could teleport you all the way down
If
there.
I start driving now, I might get there in time.
I don't wish those drives on my worst enemy. I drive way too much, but as I said, I'm sure we'll cross paths hopefully on this side of things.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to spend some time at a feast one day. I don't know, we kind of opened this up before we got on camera saying our testimonies are ongoing. We don't know what the Father has in store for us. I don't know what the Father has in store for me later today, let alone in 2 years
Mhm.
from now, because I'm in this place of surrender and trust. And who knows if He will take me and my family down one day to the States. That would be I don't mean one day, I mean in a more permanent fashion.
Yeah.
I see some of you, and I know there's, blessing and curses with fellowship, but many of us are very alone. Many of us don't have in-person fellowships, and I do am starting to crave that being together with people.
Yeah. It's a it's a wonderful thing. Of course, there's always like differences in personality, and generally there's some differences in like belief, like how do you pronounce the name, like there's going to be calendar differences sometimes, things like that. But um, we can when we can put those things aside, those differences, and realize that we're all trying to do our best and worship the Father, like, and do that. Get that. It's a beautiful thing. So I hope that you have that soon.
Yeah, I'm sure that I will. I mean, I'm blessed with a husband who's on the exact same path. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have found each other. But yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, sister. It's so nice to see your face on camera, and thank you so much for the courage to share everything you shared. And Father bless yourself, your marriage, your husband, the kids, your fellowship, everything that you have around you, your beautiful page that's blessing so many of us. That is your ministry. That is your you're hilarious, and you keep going with a smile. Mm.
What else can we do,
What else can we do? Yeah, it's laugh or cry, right?
right? Sometimes I cry,
Yeah, good. We gotta cry too.
but I choose to let the ha-has be the that's my typical. Like we've got joy, then we should be joyful.
Yeah, yeah, and as we said, it's a heavy, heavy walk, and it has the potential to be very, very, very cumbersome. So,
Well, his his commandments are not too heavy, right? Like the reason why it's heavy to people is because they put like all of man's things on it. They add to it. But like when we look at what he's told us to do, it's really easy.
oh, I don't
It's
find that stuff heavy. I find the interacting with people who are on the same path and then people who are not on the same path.
yeah.
The people who are not that's the heaviest thing, is the when we effectively remove ourselves, when we cross over. When you
Yeah.
you cross over, I mean, I feel like an alien everywhere I am all the time.
Yeah.
I
I've
still
never been good at fitting in anyways though, so
it. We were all weird, peculiar people. We're finding this path anyway.
now I'm just weird with zeet on.
I know. Yeah, I know. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I hope that we can talk again super soon.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
really I appreciate the opportunity to like share.
It's you've blessed me, and anyone who's watching can guarantee it.
Thank you.
Bye.